them. If he was only for the Arab in 7th century, how come most later many of his followers from your ranks also became Muslim? Brother and sister, today everyone's become Muslim. You have to ask the question, what is it about Islam? So everybody would say, it's Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's a true prophet. So we see Islam ticks all the boxes. From here is a very important question that comes up, and we as Muslims have to be able to answer it, which is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if He wanted people to believe in Him, why sometimes or some of the evidences are not as certain or clear to people as other evidences? Means people, when they look at Islam, there are some evidences that are so clear. And some evidences require effort to think about it, to find the ruling. Some people say, why Allah didn't make it absolutely clear, every single proof of Islam? Like for example, someone says, bring me proof. I can't show you Allah descending and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how He looks. I can bring you the Quran, His speech, I can bring you... But that's arguments that make you think. Some people want absolute yaqeen. They want to know this is going to give you yaqeen. And this is the problem with some of the people who are not Muslim. They put the standard for truth higher than the standard of science. Why? So they don't accept Islam and they accept science. In science, there's different levels. There's what we call strong proof, weak proof, no proof. But why I'm saying this, the scholars, they address this issue, like Sheikh Abdul Rahman al-Muallimi, and before him, Alauddin al-Bukhari, and other imams, they said, some evidences are very clear and certain. And some of them, they require effort to understand. They're not as clear. They might require a lot of ijtihad and nadar, thinking and ta'ammul, reflection. Because Islam and truth, they need that struggle, the test. Going back to the test. If Allah wants to test us, part of the test is that you need to use your brain and your heart and your mind to understand the evidences to reach the conclusion. It cannot come so easily, even though Allah already gave it into you, the fitrah to begin with. So for example, somebody may say the fitrah leads me to Islam, but when I read the book and the sunnah, sometimes I got to think and I have to struggle and I have to... Why? The test. Because that's the thamar of Iman. But imagine everyone opens the Quran and becomes Muslim. The same thing. Where is the test? Where is the darajat? So we're not saying Islam is so difficult, no one can understand, or someone may not get it. We're saying you need to put the effort in. And this is important for the atheist who says that some evidence are not convincing. He's saying this, forgetting that his standard of truth, when it comes to Islam, he tries to raise it. But in science, he lowers it. Right? For example, they'll say, I don't have convincing truth of Islam. But do you have convincing truth of anything? If you say that about Islam, you don't have it for other things, especially your science. It's based on theoretical, it's called speculative and theoretical physics for a reason. Imagine, brothers, some people, they're playing in all kinds of conjuncture. He believes in that. When it comes to truth, he puts the standard higher. In the world we live in today, there's standards of truth, right? You go to court. And what is one of the highest standard of truth you can get in court? If you have a trial, beyond reasonable doubt, right? Does everything have to be beyond reasonable doubt for it to be true? No. Some standards are lower, depends, criminal versus civil. And why I'm saying this, because in the dunya we see there's levels of standards. In Islam, we have beyond reasonable doubt evidences. We do. Like right now, if someone came to you and says, I accept Islam, but this thing gives me trouble. I'm having a hard time understanding this. How do we deal with this person? We tell them, look, if this thing's troubling you, it could be a fitna for your mind. But does that mean Islam is not right, even though you didn't get that? It's like saying, I don't understand why in Islam there's polygamy. Does that deny Allah exists? You see, it's like if you go out of Islam one door, you're going to come back into another. That's the problem. The atheists, when others like this who have doubts, they pretend like the whole thing is out. If something I didn't understand, personally, I need to work on understanding it. But I don't throw the baby out the bathwater. It wouldn't make sense. And nobody does that with other things. But when it comes to Islam, you find this. And that's the problem with the atheist. Any argument and doubt he'll bring you, you have another one to bring him back to Islam. So it's not a calculation, right? You put this in, you put that in, the formula is going to be Islam. No, because everybody is coming from different places. Some people do not want to believe. You have to accept that, brothers and sisters. That's why Allah has Jahannams there. Some people are going to go in there, they don't want to believe. Allah says, وَإِن يَرَى كُلَّ آيَةٍ لَا يُؤْمِنُ بِهَا. They saw ayat, they wouldn't believe in it. It's not Allah punished them purposely. They chose it. فَلَمَّا زَاغُوا. When they deviated, they created these doubts on purpose. زَاغُ اللَّهُ قُلُوبَهُمْ. Allah didn't allow them to see the truth. But you cannot tell me someone sincere looking for Islam, looking at every single stone, turning it and investigating, I didn't find Islam to be true. Because brothers and sisters, Islam is not a religion which is very small, it's a deep. If today anybody has one issue or two issues, something they couldn't get, it has no bearing on the fact that Islam is right. What it teaches us is our knowledge is limited. Why? بَفَوْقَ كُلِّ ذِي عِلْمٍ عَلِيمٍ. Above anyone who has knowledge, more knowledgeable. So maybe I got stuck somewhere, but you can't tell me Allah doesn't exist, that Islam is not right. Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, like I said, if you told me, Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, some things I didn't get it. And Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam also is the same prophet who told us the prophecies. You gotta make sense of it. If he's a liar, why did he tell us some of the prophecies? You got it right. If he's immoral, for example, some people think this, then how come he has other moral behavior? You gotta make it make sense here. You can't. You have to be understanding that Islam is a religion where if you take all the evidence together, you only get the answer. But if you told me today I took something out of context, I'm going to bring you something else to bring you context. What are you going to do? So many people, that's what's stopping them. Shaitan, he knows some people, you need to bring them a roadblock, because if they were to look at other things, it'll bring them back to Iman. For example, they got stuck somewhere, and that thing could be explained to them. But just tell them, remember why you came to Islam in the first place. You looked at that issue. Why did you skip this and go back there? Go back to here, and the one who sent that, sent this. But you can't tell me Allah, He sent the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Allah sent the Quran, it tells all the good things, and it says something wrong. No. And also important for us to remember that people who have these issues, we have to remind them the basics of Islam. Hence, for the atheist, if he goes through all of this, he has no choice but to accept Islam. I want to finish by talking about some common doubts that appear when you talk to non-Muslims, or sometimes I believe they're just ways to distract the conversation, right? And it's very important, because when you're doing da'wah, you're in the front row, right? You're in the first line of defense. So everything comes your way. Hence, the da'iyah has to be well read. He has to have knowledge of dunya wa deen. Because the da'iyah is going to be talking about Islam, so he needs Islam, but also the kafir or the non-Muslim or the mad'u, the one you're calling, he's going to have a lot of different doubts, so he might throw you away. Some of them could be from their own religious perspective, and sometimes, like for the atheist, it's just a way to, distract the conversation. They're going to bring you a doubt. Let's talk about some of them quickly, very common ones. And they're called the impossibility arguments. Okay, so atheists, many times you see them, when they try to say Allah doesn't exist, one way they try to disprove Allah's existence is by using a set of arguments called the impossibility arguments. I mean, just look at the wording, impossibility. And what the impossibility arguments are supposed to do is show that Allah's existence, His existence, the concept of God doesn't make sense, it's impossible. So what they're trying to show is that if Allah did exist, it's logically impossible, inconsistent. And the way to do that, they're going to bring you some tricks, some paradoxes and funny things like this that is hard to answer. The real problem with this is that it doesn't doesn't actually do anything against the arguments. Why? Because if we take their arguments to be true, we still didn't answer the question who brought us to existence. So it's like saying Allah can't exist, but we're here. So you have to answer that question. So most of them, they get stuck. If I agree with them and say, okay, your argument, your paradox, your argument, confusing us all, but we didn't answer the question. Where did you come from? Where did I come from? So we have to remember that their argument is designed for what? To stump you. It's a way to stump you. So if you ever hear it, just remember that this is not an argument. Example, the paradox. They're called the paradoxes as well. One of the paradoxes is called the paradox of the stone. I'm sure some of you probably heard that. Can God make a stone so heavy he can't lift? Whenever you hear this, you already know this is a nonsense. It's a paradox. It's designed to get you to not be able to answer and say, therefore God doesn't exist. It doesn't even prove Allah doesn't exist. It just proves you asked a very bad question. His question is, can God create a stone so big he can't even lift? And the answer to this, obviously, brothers and sisters, you have to be careful. Because the impossibility arguments are a trick. This is called the mu'dila, the ulama call it. It's a dilemma. So as scholars, it's old. How old is the argument? Ibn Rushd al-Maliki, who died 595 Hijri, he discussed this. Imagine how old it is. Right? He mentioned this in Tahafut, right? Al-Tahafut. Right? His response to Al-Ghazali. He mentions this argument. I'm saying this because you go online or university da'wah tables, you see people saying this. They think they're smart, but they don't know what they're trying to prove there. Right? Because the max they're going to prove is that you can't answer this question. The worst, right, is that you're going to answer them and he doesn't have any answer why we're here. Remember, the atheist has to give you answers for Allah's existence. So how do you answer this question? First of all, scholars, they say, this argument is trying to disprove Allah's omnipotence, Allah's all-powerful nature. Allah is ala kulli shay'in qadir. Pay attention. And kulli shay'in qadir means Allah can do everything. And what does that mean? Allah can do everything? Everything which is logically possible. Can Allah do something which is not only logically impossible, something which is impossible in and of itself, مستحيل لذاته, something which is impossible in and of itself, the answer is no. Why? Because that's not something. In the books of Aqidah, ulama talk about this, and this shows the power of Aqidah. أو فجريتات سفارينية, it's in there. بقدرة تعلقت بممكن كذا إرادة فعي واستبن. He says, Imam Safarini, an ability connected to possibilities. Likewise in his will, so understand and clarify. What does it mean? Someone says, can Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create a square triangle? What's wrong with this question? Square triangle, does it exist? So a square, I guess a square triangle, square circle, it's all the same. Right? Can Allah create that? It's impossible, logically. بذاته. Why? Because as soon as it becomes a square, it can be a triangle. And if it's a triangle, it can be a square. So they know this. What they're trying to do is they're trying to make sure you don't know that. So they're going to trick you and say, is that possible? And you're going to say, I don't know. If you say no, they're going to say, see, Allah is not ala kulli shayin qadir. We say, no, that's the wrong understanding of that. And if you say yes, you look like, foolish, right? It's like saying, can 1 + 1 be 3? Right? Unless you're a Christian, it's not going to work there. It's not going that way, right? So you don't go there. So what do you tell them? This doesn't make sense. This is a paradox. I know what you're doing. When we say ala kulli shayin qadir, shay means something which is mumkin, possible, not something mustahil. And everyone knows this. So how do you answer this question? And ulama have answered it, like Ibn Abdul Aziz al-Hanafi, Ibn Taymiyyah, Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen, for example. Let's read Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen. He answers this question in his Sharh Safarini, actually, page 192. Ibn Uthaymeen says, as for something, impossibilities are, which we can conceive in our mind, is of two types. Something impossible in and of itself, and something impossible due to other reasons. As for something impossible in and of itself, then if someone says, is Allah capable of creating someone like Him? We say that is impossible. However, Allah is capable of creating a creation greater than the creation that we know now. We know now that the greatest creation of Allah is the throne is the greatest of Allah's creation. But Allah can create something bigger than that. What is He trying to say? If someone says, can Allah create someone like Himself? Why is it logically impossible? If Allah were to create someone like Himself, is that being a God or creation? Creation. And if Allah can't do it, they're going to see He can do something. And if He did it, it's not even a God to begin with. So the question is illogical, because where does it get wrong? Can Allah create a rock? He can't. It can't in one sentence. So ulama say it's nonsense. It's a nonsense argument. So if someone asks you a question, tell them, no, that's a nonsense. It's a nonsense. They know it too. So you don't have to answer the nonsense. And if the person believes they proved something, tell them, what did they prove? All they proved is I can't answer you. But where did you come from? See, you have to throw the ball in their court. I don't have an answer. Let's say, I don't know how to answer. Imagine I didn't know. I'll say, okay, I don't know how to answer, but what's your point? Did we come out of nothing or something? He's going to say, I don't know. So you don't know, I don't know, both of us don't know. What are we doing here? Most of the time you see brothers and sisters, when they go on the da'wah to some of them, they know that because this is the best they got. They just want to confuse you. Another paradox, that paradox is easy, but you have to be able to answer it, because shaitan, he knows when this question comes, if someone doesn't know what to answer, he can confuse them. Another example will be when they come and they ask questions like this. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's another one called the omniscience paradox. It's a little more complicated, maybe we won't go into it. But there are other types of paradoxes. Whenever you hear paradox, ignore it. You already know it's nonsense. The best it was going to do, you can't answer, and he doesn't have an answer. And none of us are going to get to the question, which is, where did we come from? Who created us? Where we're going? So very important to understand that sometimes the atheists, this is what they're trying to do. Their point is to confuse people. So if you don't know something, just say, I don't know. That's the job of the Muslim. I don't know. You ask them more knowledgeable, and the ulama, they know more knowledgeable, more than us. And there's many others, I'm not going to get into them because they're more complicated, but the conclusion is all the same. It's just going nowhere. And the reason why I mentioned this example is very common on the da'wah tables. You find this question. And somebody thinking he's smart. We talked about last week, some similar question. Can God create? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, can He create, for example, the storm he said, or the example, can Allah, who created Allah? Same nonsense. Created Allah, it's created, it can't be created, you gotta stop. If you don't know what God means, it's already a problem. So they try to say that, and they try to dispute, say Allah, He's not created. If you ask Allah to something to create Allah, then you're asking for something which is not the creator. It's like for them, they choose the universe as where's the stop. We say the stop is Allah. Everything came from Allah. They say everything came from the universe. But what's the problem with their argument? The universe, can it give us qualities that we have? So for example, if you tell them, can we go back in time one thing depending on another thing, another created thing depending on another thing, ad infinitum, like infinitely, they say no. So where do we stop? Allah. They're going to say the universe. What's the problem with their argument? Does the universe have knowledge? The universe speak? Does the universe have will? I have knowledge and will. So give me something that gives me the qualities. So if you told me the universe created us, how come the universe can't speak? I can speak. You'll say natural selection created us. How come he can't speak? I can speak. Allah huwa mutakallim, he speaks. Wa hayyul qayyum. See, this makes sense. And that's why you find them, they get all busy in the mechanism, they don't get to the answer. You see, most of the conversation with the non-Muslim is all about these finer details. We want the ultimate explanation. Let's stop worrying about how it came. I'm asking you who, not about how. Also, by the Muslims, we should be very mindful that the atheists, a lot of times when they try to discuss religion, they may not focus on these topics, so they may go here and there. So our job, if you're doing da'wah, you direct the person. You start with Allah's existence, and you turn to go down. But if someone takes you to a conversation about Sharia or about halal and haram, no problem. You can answer the question. But you need to direct them back to what's more important. Why? Because the conversation become lost or become less fruitful. Example, someone may ask a controversial question just to create problems. So as a da'i, if you're doing da'wah, you see the question is very controversial. It's not befitting to talk about in public, or the awam who don't know anything better, they're not going to understand it. You don't entertain it. You tell the person, do you have time? Do you have an hour or something? We could talk about it. And say, hour, he doesn't have time. Okay, leave it then. Because sometimes he wants a quick answer, something complicated. Not everything's easy. You want a quick answer? I'm sorry, no quick answer for something. An example with the topic of slavery. Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, they asked him this question. And Iqat and Aqaliyat Muslimat, they said, Shaykh, we're giving da'wah, people raise this question. He said, obviously, if it comes up, you answer, but it's not something you should be talking about. And why do you think today people have conversation now about slavery? What are they trying to get at? Islam has slavery. I mean, do you check history? 2,000 years plus of history has slavery. So why are you talking about Islam? It's that the people talk about Qadr. How do you explain Qadr? If you become a kafir, you still have a problem with Qadr. It doesn't matter. Qadr is for everybody's discussion. So it's funny because someone said become non-Muslim because of Qadr. You still didn't solve it. It's like, as if the Muslims only have Qadr. Everybody has the same question. How do you have free will and determination? It's something determined at the same time. So it shows you again, some people are so out of touch with even the mawdu'. You say, I have doubt about Islam because of Qadr. If you became mulhid, you still have the same problem. Because you didn't understand it. Islam has the answer, the atheist doesn't. How about, for example, slavery? Why are people talking about it? Because they know it's a complicated topic. It's very difficult. Why? Because historically and presently, there's a discrepancy. Because when we say slavery existed, we know there's different types of slavery. The ethics and morals are fixed, they don't change. So we didn't get woke and the people past are sleeping, right? I hope no one believes that. And also our understanding of slavery is different than what people understand in the past. So it's a conversation, people write books on it. Very difficult conversation. But if someone asks you a question, you say, what's the answer? You're already setting yourself a failure. You say, let me give you a quick summary. The summary is too heavy, too big for someone like this to answer. Tell me you have an hour, 2, you want to sit down and study it? Otherwise, we can't answer a question like this. But also, why is he talking about it in front of Islam? Tell me about something Islam teaches. Islam, in the Sharia, there are things which are considered the Sharia and things which are considered circumstantial. Can Islamic law, for example, exist without slavery? Is that possible? Yes. But you see, when the person is asking you, he thinks it's like built in. From the objectives of Sharia is to enslave people. This is what they think. We're slaves of Allah. So the point we have to understand that this conversation is advisable not to get into them. Unless the person is very sincere, has a lot of time and ready to read and ready to confront the ideas. The atheists, you may also see when you're talking to them, they're not conceding or anything. They don't want to accept any point. So you have to stick to them, right? Is there anything I can prove to you? Like you're going to make it make sense to you? But sometimes what you just have to do, iqamatu hujjah. Just establish the proof. Doesn't matter if you listen. Just establish as much as you can. You may also find that sometimes the conversation will take time. And da'i has to be patient. Because everybody's level is higher and lower. Some people more educated, less educated. More stubborn, less stubborn. And so da'wah doesn't have to be sudden. It may take them a while for them to accept. The same way time Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, some of the Arab, they became Muslim after the Fath al-Makkah. They waited. They knew Islam was right, but they were looking for more clarity in terms of the conquest of Mecca was it. Another very common problem that comes up is the problem of evil. We already have some notes on Tron Da'wah, someone wants that. But that's the number one, most common discussion. So I advise every Muslim to be able to understand the problem of evil. What's the problem of evil? We need to have some notes on Tron Da'wah, how to answer that question. That is the number one cause of atheism. that evil exists in the world. The problem with the argument, it doesn't disprove Allah. The best of what it does, as Shaykh Salih Sindi he mentions, and even atheists admit, it does, it proves that there's a God out there but who's evil. We don't believe in. That's the best they can do. It doesn't prove Allah doesn't exist. Why? Because it's a problem. Where did the evil come from? The mulhid, he has the same problem. It's called the evidential problem of evil or evolutionary problem of evil. So the atheist, he has a problem. Where did evil come from? He doesn't have an answer. So he thinks he can stick it to you. You give me your answer. He's even worse what he has. Because he can't. Evolution allow evil to come. Why? What benefit does it offer us for adaptivity? No answer. If you ask, how about the problem of good? The problem of good. We have lots of good on earth. How much is good? Good is more or evil? Good is more. So why are you always worried about evil, not the good? Why do we have good and someone else has evil? So tell me the answer. If you have a problem with evil, but you have also a problem with good, why is it good? So this question, if you read the notes online, you get the answer. It's a very common one. Awam, they have this question. Philosophers, educated with the same problem. Because it's a difficult, it's a sensitive topic, but the answer can be given. Another common one, they ask some of them, the problem of hell. Problem of hell is another one. Why is it, if Allah is all merciful, why is there hellfire? Does it disprove Allah's existence? No. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punishes those who deserve it, not those who are innocent. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't make mistakes. So the question they're asking is, how is Allah all merciful? It puts people in Jahannam. Allah is also all just, not all merciful. This is the first problem. Their understanding of Allah's beautiful names and attributes is absolutely false. You may even notice majority of the arguments they present is because they think Allah only has 3 attributes. All loving or all good, all capable, all knowing. Where's hikmah? Where's adl, justice? So it's very important, brothers. Whenever you hear the argument with atheists, tell them how many sifat Allah has. Qualities Allah has 3? No, He has infinite. Allah is all merciful and all just. Yep. In the dunya we have justice. Allah doesn't have justice. Here in this dunya, for example, there's punishment. Allah doesn't punish anyone. So if someone today say Allah is all merciful and all just, no, Allah shadidul iqab wa annahu ghafurur rahim. 2, both. Allah is all forgiving, Allah pardoning, and Allah is punishing. But the atheists, when they conceive Allah, they use, I don't know where they get it from, this idea. They say it's like a straw man. God has 3 qualities. Okay. Once you add wisdom in there, it's already finished. Because the problem evil is finished already. God is wise. And next, God is just. Is it possible Allah punishes somebody because He deserves it? At the same time, He loves it, He's merciful? Yes. And also the concept of love and punishment and desire. Love, punishment, and justice. Allah loves people, but love is based on what? Obedience. And Allah rewards people who do good. They want us to believe in the problem of hell. Why Allah put some in Jahannam? Answer, did Allah put them there or they put themselves in there? See, there's a problem. They're going to say Allah put them there. Did they not do anything to get there? It's like saying the criminal. Did he put himself in court? And in the jail, or did he get there by mistake? If he got there by force, a mistake, this is wrong. Allah doesn't make mistakes, what we're saying. So when you sympathize with the criminal, where is it coming from? Are you telling me the person who didn't believe in Allah his whole life, refused to have a relationship with Him, refused to worship Him, refused to acknowledge Him, that person deserves reward? You'd be like, no. Just like in the court, would you sympathize for a murderer? You're like, no. But so what they presume is Allah is going to punish them unjustly. And we have to ask the question, Allah, when He puts people in Jahannam, if it's predicated on people's choice, someone chose to live a life and doesn't believe in Allah, the atheist, why is he worried about Jahannam? You don't believe in Allah and Jannah. What are you worried about? See, when you stick it to them there, they start getting, what are you scared of? I thought you don't believe in Allah. But it's not just, no. Or they say, I'm just using what you believe in. Then listen to me what I'm telling you. Because in the dunya, there's justice. There's a reward. That's the problem. If you believe in good and bad here, if you believe in court in the dunya, why is there no divine court? Even now, some people, you see them, they believe in punishment. Their concept of punishment has to do with punishment, which is proportional. Proportionality, yes. But punishment is not based on time. So someone may ask a very common one. I don't want to get into it because the problem of hell is more detailed. But summary, someone say, if God punishes someone disobeyed Allah or disbelieved Him for 60 years, why has to go to Jahannam forever? I mean, since when was crime based on timing? Based on proportionality, the gravity of the sin, right? If I rob the bank in 1 second, I don't go to jail for 1 second? Come on, they don't even know the law, these people. You go to jail for 25 years, maybe 5 years, depends. What kind of much is theft? 5,000, above 5,000? So based on what? Gravity. If I kill somebody, it's not like, say, it took me a few minutes. I'm not going to go to jail a few minutes, right? So that's already based on a false fallacy, right? They say this, why forever? And so scholars, they explain this problem, and it's never a problem for us. Why did they call these problems? Because it was problems for the other religions. Christianity, brothers and sisters, cannot answer these questions at all. Because their understanding is very, very bad. Like very shallow or very unsophisticated answers. So the problem of evil, Christianity doesn't have a good answer. Problem of hell doesn't have a good answer. Right? So we as Muslims have sophisticated answers, but we have to remember who's saying it's a problem. Another thing connected to this is that some people think Allah does injustice to somebody. How? Allah decreed someone. Very common question. How can Allah punish someone for something that He decreed? You ever heard this one before? How can Allah punish someone for something He decreed? It's like asking the question, the person, when Allah decreed upon, did the person know beforehand or not? He didn't know. So did he do anything to get that maf'ul, the action? Yes. So it's like saying right now, how come Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allowed me to have a job? Decreed for me to have a job? Because not only Allah decreed, and He decreed the asbab. You go to work, you apply for the job, so you get the job. No one asks questions about that, right? Allah decreed for me money and food. He asked, well, Allah decreed for me punishment. Well, did you do anything wrong? The person said, no. Then Allah didn't decree for you. You did it? Yes, you did something wrong. So yes, you're liable. So the problem they have is they want to remove that part. As if Allah's qadr will proceed and take away your free will. Brothers and sisters, pay attention. The qadr issue, many Muslims didn't understand it. And the ulama explained it, Ibn Qayyim and Taymiyyah, in details. So amazing the way they explain it. Sometimes they're saying that Muslims, we don't know it. We have the answers, don't bury anyone else. The summary of this question is, Allah's decree precedes us. It doesn't drive us. What drives you? Your free will, your irada. وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا يَشَاءَ اللَّهِ. You have a will, Allah has a will. Allah's will supersedes our will. But Allah never denied your will. So the ulama say, Qadrullah, Allah's decree is sabiq. It gets ahead of you. وَلَيْسَ sa'iq. It's not driving you. Example, you came to the dars today. Allah knows you're coming to the dars. Were you brought here by Allah's knowledge of you coming beforehand? Or do you jump in your car and drove here with your own choice? See, hence your irada. Allah decreed your will and the outcome. وَاللَّهُ خَلَقَكُمْ مَا تَفْعَلُونَ. But you have an irada, you have a will. That's the point people keep missing. And if I know what I'm going to do tomorrow, does it actually change what I'm going to do, is it? For example, your mom knows maybe tomorrow you have a doctor's appointment. Does your mom knowing you have a doctor's appointment get you to the doctor's appointment? No, you get up in the morning, decide if you're going to go or not. So your mom knowing tomorrow you're going to the doctor's appointment didn't force you to get out of bed, right? So how was Allah's decree that preceded you, forced you to do the sin? Why didn't it force you to do good? See, the person you have to ask him, and Allah's decree never forced you to pray salah? Why only find that Allah's decrees forced you to drink khamr? You see, the guy is sitting and saying, oh, I'm forced to. You could have been forced to pray salah, I don't find you there. Well, Allah's decree only is taking you one way. Allah la ya'muru bil fahsha. The problem is, they want to take out the irada. Very important. That's why when we study qadr, we study the four principles. And what is the third one? We have a will, Allah has a will. Don't miss that point. These people want to come and say, Allah already decreed, so it's going to happen. No, Allah decreed, and that's why you're here today, to do it or don't do it. Hence, why Allah, another question, Allah puts people in Jahannam and Jannah. If Allah knows you're going to Jannah and Jahannam, why did He put them right now? Answer. The person who's going to Jahannam can't go without doing the actions, right? So here we go. Allah knows you're going to Jahannam. Allah knows you're going to Jannah. Here's when you do the actions to go to Jannah or Jahannam. That's why Allah's ilm, azali, is an eternal knowledge. That is ilm al-dhuhur. In order to reward you, you actually have to come to fruition. Here you are. And to get punished you have to do the crime. Right? The punishment has to fit the crime, has to be with the crime. Someone says, Allah orders is going to do a crime. You don't know Allah decrees, number one, and you never did the crime yet. But why are you doing crime? That's the question I want to ask you. Why are you doing crime and worrying what Allah did? It's like sitting down and saying, Allah's going to punish me or not. Well, until you do something, we're going to find out. Why are you sitting there worrying about Allah's going to punish you? Do what Allah's going to get you to reward you. But it's like it's asking someone today who did a crime, it wasn't his fault. And anyone who has a problem with the issue of qadr, you have to ask, he will not believe in the justice system. Because you have to take away responsibility in this world. When a criminal kills someone, you cannot tell him, he can't say in the court, Judge, I have no responsibility what I did. Because I had no free will. If we say this, we say he's majnoon. Once you get to that level, what is the hukm in Islam for the one who's insane? No ruling. But if someone goes to court and says, I have no choice because my genetic makeup forced me to do it, my environment was so bad, I had to kill somebody. Circumstantially, we know somebody could have been in a case where they lost their free will. There's a book, chapter fiqh about this. I'm talking to someone who has all the free will, decided to kill someone, then goes to court and says, well, it's not really my choice. Because my mom and dad gave me some genetic makeup to decide some things. In the dunya, some things you didn't choose, right? Like your eyesight, where you're born, where you live, your mom and dad, right? But despite all that, you can still make a life for yourself. So why is the akhirah any different? That's the Shaykh Islam Ibn Taymiyyah's argument. And Ibn Taymiyyah makes a powerful argument. He says in the dunya, we punish people, Muslims, non-Muslims punish each other for the mistakes that we made, knowing that we never created the action that we're doing. We're doing the action, Allah created it. Example, somebody stole. I did the action, Allah created the act of theft. I stole but. And then you go to court and you go to jail. People who are created are punishing each other. Why can't the created then punish the person? You see, in the dunya we do it all the time. Someone goes to jail, someone's released from jail. Allah, no, He can't do that, it's not just. And this one is? The one who created the theft, you and the crime, can't punish you. But you who didn't create nothing, another guy who didn't create his action but did it, gets to punish each other. Hence, if anyone argues the issue of qadr, he has to let go of justice in the court. But you never find anyone who has worth 2 cents is going to say that. And it's very powerful because the people who argue this, they know how difficult the topic is. Because there's no easy way around it. You must accept free will and qadr at the same time. So as a Muslim, when someone comes to you to ask you these questions, you have to study the issue in more detail. But just remember what the person is trying to get out of you. What's his intention? If he's trying to get you to have no answer, you could turn it on him and say, oh, I know where you're going with this. And that's allowed to in discussion, debate. If you know what someone's intending, you're allowed to get to it and ask them, what's your intention behind it? Are you saying there's no free will? And if he says yes, then tell him, mashallah, you're not talking to me right now. You don't have no free will. Right? And that's the thing. If he says there's no free will, tell him, I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. You don't have any free will. I guess you can't talk to me. But if he says there's free will, then you have to accept his free will. Then you have a choice. And this is the problem we have today. People who are saying there's no atheists believe, some of them, there's no free will. Example, Sam Harris. He says that everything's determined. So mashallah, who wrote this book he wrote? He has a book he wrote. Who wrote it? There's no free will, right? Why are you accepting rewards for it? How do you accept payment? He says you're a neuroscientist. Excuse me, you don't have any free will. You're nothing. So funny. When it comes to rewards, mashallah. When it comes to sin, no, I don't have free will. This is the problem. That's why you have to stick it to the person. Are you telling me there's no free will? How'd you get here? Where are you? And he'll be telling you, yeah, okay, there is. Everyone has to accept. But what they're trying to ask, can we know the exact mechanism of this? That belongs to Allah. Allah knows the secret of how qadr, the exact mechanism. What we do know, I have a choice. Allah's knowledge does not impede my will. And part of Allah's knowledge is what He created is our will. So we have to understand these questions. If you don't know how to answer, just ask somebody. But remember, there's no question no one can ask you that's going to stop Islam or is going to stump it. All these questions be answered in such great depth. And the ulama, mashallah, they spend time on this. And I'm saying this because the atheist is tricky to speak to compared to other groups. Because he has a lot of these other things he's just going to take you here and there. All you have to do is be more familiar with the most common answers or questions. And I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, that the arguments they present compared to the responses the ulama have given is nothing. It's nothing. There is nothing they can bring you. We have to have that confidence in our deen. And if you don't read the biography of the ulama, they dealt with the most intelligent minds and they floored them. They silenced them in minutes. Not like, long session, in minutes. Some of the great imams, they debated. Some of these arguments come from the Mu'tazila. And the Mu'tazila got it from the philosophers. So the ulama, they knew that. They argue with people. I'll give you just one argument, one debate that happened, and we'll finish with this for today. And next week we'll talk about how to deal with Christians or Jews. Maybe Jews we'll start with. So one of the scholars they mentions, right? Many ulama they mention this qissa, Tabaqat al-Shafi'iyah, Subki, it's written there, Sharh Tahawiyah, Fath al-Bari, many others. This qissa that happened between the Qadari, Jabari, and an Imam of Sunnah. So Abdul Jabbar al-Hamdani, one of the well-known Mu'tazila, Imams of the Mu'tazila, one day he debated Abu Ishaq and Asfarayini. Okay, both live in the 5th century, 418, 415. So this Imam knows this guy's Mu'tazili. And the Mu'tazili, they believe that many of them, not all of them, some of them are Qadarites and some of them are Jabarites. Some believe no free will and some say we have free will. So he's one of those people who said there's no free will. So what did he say? The Imam said, when he saw the Imam, this Mu'tazili said, Subhanallah, glory be to the one who is above all evil. So the Imam immediately replied, and glory be to the one who nothing happens in his kingdom except what he wills. He already knows where he's going with it. See, but he's using some talmih here. He said the one who is above all evil. Why? Because the Mu'tazila believe the evil comes from us. Allah doesn't decree the evil. We're the ones who does evil. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Qadir, Allah is a person of khair. Being of khair. So we create the evil. Okay, this is the belief that they have. And some they say that unrestrictedly and some say restrictedly. So the point is, when he heard that, because we know Allah created evil. But when it comes to Allah, we don't say it's evil. We say Allah created the action or the entity which is evil, but Allah's actions are not evil. So to better understand this, remember Allah is the fa'il, the doer, then the fi'l, the action, and the maf'ul, that which Allah created. Which one of these is evil? That which Allah created. It's like, for example, the wolf. I don't know if you want to call the wolf evil, but it's generally the lion maybe. It's pretty dangerous. Allah is the fa'il, the creator. He's perfect. His fi'l is perfect. The maf'ul, what he created, the object, that can be evil. I can describe that as evil lion, a bad thing. But people, they mistake this and say, Allah, since He created the lion, His action must be evil, He must be evil. Is that logical? No. Because when Allah created the lion, it has a great wisdom, which makes it good more than evil. So pay attention, this is what this Mu'tazili was trying to do. Then the Imam, they kept going. So this Mu'tazili, Qaadir Abdul Jabbar, is ma'ruf Mu'tazili. He said, do you mean that our Lord wills that He should be disobeyed? He's trying to say, do you believe Allah, in His kingdom, He decrees people to disobey Him? And then the Imam said, will Allah be disobeyed by force? You see? He's trying to push him. What are you trying to say? Someone did something Allah didn't decree? Of course, if he says yes, it's a kufr, right? So then the Qadi said, do you think if he denies me, this is Mu'tazili said, me guidance, then decrees that I should be doomed in Jahannam, that He treated me fairly? See, this is exactly the thing. Allah decreed I'm going to Jahannam. He didn't allow me to be guided, and then He's going to punish me. Is that fairly? Then look what the Imam said. If He were to withhold from you something that belongs to you, then this would be unfair. But if He withholds from you something that belongs to Him, then He can bestow His mercy upon whomsoever He wills. The Qadi had no answer. Jannah, is it a haqq on us, or is it a fadl, is it a bounty? The bounty. If Allah promised you Jannah, then they put you in there, that's wrong. Allah never promised the Jannah. Allah promised Jannah to whoever does what it takes. Allah, Jannah is a fadl. As for going to Jahannam, it's adl, because you did what He deserves. So what did the Imam say? If Allah denies you something which you're right, that's dhulm. But if He didn't give you something you don't deserve, then Allah does whatever He wants. Means, for example, if two people come to you now, employees, both of them work for you, you give each their salary, but the other guy worked more, so you give him double. Is that dhulm? No, because it wasn't the haqq of the other. You see? But if both of them work for you, you gave one guy, not the other, that's dhulm. Why? Because the other guy worked, he didn't give. So what did Imam do? Imam showed him that if you're trying to say Allah is supposed to give you Jannah, He didn't give it to you, that's wrong. But if you don't guarantee Jannah or promise Jannah to begin with, then Allah can give it to himself He wills. Game over. And that shows you the way the Imam, imagine this conversation happening on the fly. The Qadi is one of the biggest Mu'tazil ever. He has no answer. What do you think? These people that can't answer Ahl Sunnah, Jama'at, the ulama are not just sitting there, they don't know anything. That's why our job also to read their biographies. Read the munadarat, the debates Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Qayyim they had. Read debates of the Salaf al-Salih, Imam Ahmad when he debated the issue of Khalq al-Quran. Amazing. Right? Read the debate of Abdul Aziz al-Kitani, debated Bishr al-Mayrisi. Read Abu Uthman, the Darimi, and the debates they have. When you see how they debate the Ahl Bid'ah and the disbelievers, they finish them, brothers and sisters. Within seconds, minutes, no answer. They have to jump here and there. And these are supposed to be big guys. And I'm saying that because today when you find an atheist, some of them are more sincere than others, but you find some of them, they just want to, they want to believe or to argue. Our job is to have also the knowledge, but also remember the confidence. Confidence is also half the job. Sometimes you don't even have to have excessive amounts of knowledge. It's the way you come across is good enough. Because that confidence you have, that person is going to look at you and say, this guy has the haqq. You don't even have to be able to be as eloquent. And that's the power of truth. Because what is after truth except for falsehood? So inshallah we'll end with this. Next week inshallah we'll talk about how can we engage with the Jewish people and the conversation that will come. We'll take a look at any questions. If there's any questions, Bidnai ta'ala, we'll take them. Inshallah. Yeah, so the brother's asking resources available for this. There's a lot. The ulama have written and they recommended and they advised. And that's why for us as Muslims, our job is to know Both the arguments of the people who are trying to engage with, like the Hadith Mu'adh ibn Jabal teaches us, but also the arguments of Islam to begin with. So the beginning is to know your aqidah, your beliefs, what you stand on, either in summary or detail, and also what the other person generally will be arguing. Whereas, like we said, we pick the most appropriate places to discuss. Our job is not to be well versed in everything, because then that will require someone to be more and more scholarly or more knowledgeable in their deen. Then everyone's different. But when you talk to an atheist, you're not going to be talking about, the something like more minutiae, some details are very. You go right to the point, which is, does God exist or not? And you go to it and you bring your argument, you see his argument. If the problem is fair, when he hears your argument, he has to bring one. And the good news is most people are not well versed. So you might think to yourself, I don't know anything. The guy beside you doesn't even rest in you. Anyone who doesn't know Allah exists doesn't know anything, right? So you have to remember, I know Allah exists, he doesn't know Allah doesn't exist. So even if I don't know everything, I know, okay, look, these are the core issues. Let me take the ones which are the most important, but also the ones that are most difficult. Because any true atheist or another person, he knows these conversations are very difficult. But yes, there are a lot of resources that we have to read, we have to be equipped with. The da'i, he needs to know a lot about different things, so he can engage them in different topics. But to do da'wah, you don't have to be a scholar, you don't have to be a strong student knowledge. You can be an ami who has the proper principles, who knows the aqidah and knows what to talk about. Talking points are more important. Why? Because if we both agree that there has to be an answer, either God exists or doesn't exist. There's no third way about it. It can't be, I don't know. I don't know is a cop-out. He does or doesn't. Why? Because if he doesn't exist, then where did he come from? Where did everything come from? If he does exist, then who is he? So what we need to know as Muslims, we need to know the roadmap to allow us, as we can grow our knowledge, to know at least, if I were to engage with someone momentarily, very quickly, what should I talk about? Maybe you only have 5 minutes. One guy, you meet him in the airport. Maybe it's an Uber ride. You're not going to see that guy again. What should I say? This is what you should say. What is he most likely going to say? This. And trust me, this is what's going to happen. They're most likely going to use these kind of arguments. But as a Muslim, we have to also know, if we're doing da'wah, at least we should know what we're trying to do, because we're not responsible for the outcome. Our job is to do the job. Just share it. But yes, if you want to be more effective da'wah, there's a lot of things we have to do now. And the main thing is our aqidah, our beliefs. As Muslims, we need to start studying more and taking our classes to that level of knowledge, where we're learning the classes that we teach 7 days, more than almost every day there's a class in the masjid or in our programs. These classes are building to something bigger, which is a da'wah. Because if you do da'wah, you have to know your aqidah, a little bit about your fiqh, a little bit about your history, a little about this, a little about Arabic, so many things. And that's what it also allows you to take from knowledge to practice. Sometimes we look at the knowledge we're learning, what is the benefit behind it? So much benefit yourself, your family, and then the objective which is higher, to get someone who doesn't know anything about Islam to become Muslim. Because yes, the knowledge can get you there. So the first thing is that while we know that everyone cannot be at the same level of knowledge, at least when you're engaging with someone, remember the roadmap. So that way you just pull out and say, this guy's a non-Muslim, what kind of non-Muslim? This guy, okay, I'm going to ask him this question. Because the ones I'm giving to you, I'm telling you, these questions, discussions, are going to take you either to Islam, or the person is going to have no answer. That's it. These are not like debatable. These are the ones like, if you ask this, take it to the person. I say, look, I have this question. He's going to look at you like, I don't know. And some of them we already used, and some of them, like I said, Shaykh Ibn Taymiyyah, Ibn Qayyim, they used it before and it already worked. Like some of the arguments, like about God existing, Sahaba became Sahaba because of them. You think someone down the street whose whole life he never heard this, you think he's that stubborn? Sometimes we have to remember, not everybody is some well-read person. Some people are awam like us. So they're just like us. So we say, hey, akhi, he's I'm ami, I know Islam at least. And sometimes you have to have that quwwah. That confidence is very important. I believe half the job is in the way you speak. Just to speak, to be confident. The person look at you like, how do you know that, right? Because he looks at you and says, subhanAllah, this person knows. And even if they don't agree with you, they appreciate this person's sincerity and confidence. But if you look at, you have the truth, but you're not serious, confident, it's not accepted. These people are confident, they're saying Allah doesn't exist. That's how bad things are getting. Someone's walking, 30% of our population, walking around everyday life and God doesn't exist. How is that possible, right? Except that a person is out to lunch in his world. He has no idea. As a Muslim also, we have a lot of things that we can share with them. So as Muslims, our job is to go from where we are to more knowledge, but at the same time, the roadmap will allow us in an intermediate position, right now in the meantime, to be able to engage without having excessive amounts of knowledge. And that's the key, because what's happening today is that everyone would like the person to talk to the Imam, but the Imam is not always going to talk to everybody because he's busy, or the person may not come right. So many things can happen. So you're going to do the job, and all you need to know is, okay, at least I can talk about these 2 topics. Nothing else. Just stick to these 2. That's it. If it doesn't work, I didn't convince, I did my job. But most of the time you're planting a seed. Somebody else will come plant another seed, someone else, and finally the person will give you shahada. Brothers and sisters, sometimes you just give the Quran, it's sufficient. These leaflets, we have it over there, that's sufficient. You'll be surprised. I know somebody who became Muslim, they're waiting for us to become Muslim. One person I know, I came to the masjid, he was waiting outside, waiting for me to become Muslim. I wasn't even there. And then he's just standing in the parking lot. Someone was looking for someone to give him shahada. And he's like, what are you doing here? He said, I'm going to become Muslim. SubhanAllah. It's like, so like that, there's some people walking, all you have to do is say, Salaam alaikum, or how are you doing? And let's talk a little bit. Okay, I want to become Muslim. Imagine that. And then there's some people who you have to use these tools. So our job is, even if we cannot convince most people, because we can convince a lot of people. Alhamdulillah, a lot of people, yes. And you'd be surprised. Muslims, the knowledge that we have, sometimes we don't realize that we are sitting on absolute gold. We have to try our best to share it and spread it. And if you don't know a lot, just stick to the roadmap. And as you grow in knowledge, you come up with some more interesting things to share with people. And that's another thing too. You don't have to just engage in argument. You could just share something with somebody, And sometimes that's where it starts, And a lot of times people are interested in Islam because they see our culture, hospitality, as another whole element of da'wah as well. Allahu a'lam. Anyone else have any questions? Yes. So it's good. It doesn't need to see the translation, but it's saying it's not accurate. So how can we understand God's message if it's translated? So we answered this question in the Proofs of Prophet class, and we said, Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah said that for people like this who don't speak Arabic, they get the madlul, the mafhum, the concepts of the Quran. What's the general message? Worship one God who created you. Allah exists. He wants good for us. He's Jannah, Jahannam. That one doesn't require sophisticated linguistics. But the thing people want, if you want to appreciate the Quran on a further level, yes. But we also said, how come the Quran is a miracle? Is it only a miracle because of the linguistic argument? The Quran is a miracle for many other reasons. One of them is the sound, the beauty of its recitation. And that's every man's way to take out Islam. You read the Quran to someone who just starts crying. There's videos on YouTube, people fall on their knees, literally, on their knees. No idea what they heard. And they say, this sounds divine. I'm telling you, the Quran, that's why some of the people, when they hear the Quran, they're like, whatever that is, I need that. And non-Muslims, they know it. And they did even experiments. They took one religion and another Islam, and they did the adhan. I don't know what the other one was. It wasn't really adhan. And the Islam was, mashallah, adhan. And everyone liked the adhan in Islam. It sounds so beautiful. I'm telling you, most people, this is how they become Muslim. They hear the adhan in Medina, khalas, they start crying. Say, what was that? I'm telling you, most people are not up there and rational and all this. And even that, it might be a front for bigger problems. So Muslims, we also know that if someone says, I can't understand Quran is a linguistic miracle, no problem. The Quran has miracles of the future in there. It has the stories of the past, we said. It has a touch, it touches your heart. It removes anxiety. That's how they know the Quran is true. On top of the fact that in the translation, you get the gist of it. And alhamdulillah, as someone includes the Arabic, they get the deeper of it. That's why no one could say the Quran is not a miracle who's an expert of Arabic or non-expert. A non-expert can see what the Quran has uniquely, and the expert can see even greater. Means the Arab who are expert, they just looked at it in another angle. So that's what scholars say, any way you look at the Quran, you get it. So that's a good question. And people say, okay, but I don't know Arabic. That wasn't the only miracle of the Quran. That was the immediate miracle, and some scholars say the miracle for the people who are experts in Arabic. For the rest of us, there's so many more. Like for example, the Prophet ﷺ, Allah gave him the forewarning, or the prophecy of Fath al-Makkah in there. So Mecca, last ayahs in Surah Qasas, Allah says when he's going from Mecca to Medina, you're going to come back to Mecca. Then he came back 10 years later. So I said, what's this? Nabi ﷺ, the Quran is revealed in years. So we have date, time, and revelation. Then it happened. How is that likely? Someone could say, Nabi ﷺ, he just wrote that after. No. Surah Qasas is Mekki, and Surah Fath is Madani. See? So this is the beauty of our religion. So alhamdulillah. And we also put on Quran Da'wah before, and we have the classes, the miraculous nature of the Quran. You can also read all the ways. And that's also another argument you can use. If someone says prove Islam is true, the Quran. And how the Quran is preserved. And that's not the miracle by itself. The miracle is Allah said He's going to preserve it in Mecca, chapter 15, verse 9, and it's been preserved there. And no other book in its antiquity is preserved. That's the miracle. Some people try to confuse the miracle and say, that doesn't mean it's preserved. Many books are preserved. Yeah, I'm not talking about a book you wrote yesterday. I'm talking about 1445 years ago. And even before that, Allah said He's going to preserve it. And it's preserved as is. How is that possible? So you can also try to share that if you want. And but that's a good question people ask a lot. How can I access the Quran if I don't know Arabic? Any last questions? طيب, inshallah, next week we'll continue. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.